want to get through this and get to the good part later. So anyways, what I want to talk about is tornado safe spotting and chasing pointers. And this is stuff that I've kind of gotten off the internet, watching different things, and I think a lot of you maybe have seen a lot of what I've probably seen, and I want to just kind of put it to my perspective and some stuff that I've experienced before that I think maybe is pertinent. So before I go any further, I want to put a plug in for the National Weather Service spotter training is tomorrow evening at 6:30. And if you came here, of course, some of you out of the area guys, but if you come again, please come again, because that, we're kind of showing a different aspect. This is gonna be kind of cool stuff, but the real good spotter training is gonna be tomorrow night. I'd really encourage everybody to come, okay? So, and it's a lot of fun. Hopefully it'll be as fun as what we do here. So, to start out, to be a safe chaser.
Not to interrupt you, but if you click on slideshow, it'll get big.
Okay.
And then from beginning, up the top, header.
Yeah.
From current slide.
In the red part, it
Yeah.
says slideshow,
Where'd my arrow go? There it goes.
a little bit over.
And you want the big?
No, to the left, slideshow.
Oh, got it. I see.
Okay, and then from beginning, or current slide, doesn't matter.
All the way to the left.
Go to the left,
Yeah.
keep going, there you go.
The from beginning? Oh, I see.
Whatever, now
Hey.
click to where you were, you're good.
All right. Thank you. So, if you send spotters out, or if you're going out chasing, and then I'm gonna talk to some of you guys that aren't chasers, we'll kind of throw some stuff at you also, but for me, starting out, I go to the Storm Prediction Center and I look at their convective outlook, and that's what Chris does here. That's his job down there. And so, looking at that, there's a text underneath that on the day one, all right? That, for me, gives me the basic idea of what to expect later on that day when I go out and chase, or if your person is sending spotters out, spotter groups. So, go to that. That's my go-to, and it lays kind of the foundation. It's gonna tell you, is it hail day, wind day, tornado day, violent tornado day? That'll kind of give you the feel of the day, okay? So when I read that text and get that, then I like to see what the forecasters are looking at. And so I go to models, and there are lots of cool websites out there that you can use. I use Pivotal and Wrap UCAR are kind of my two go-tos. And what I do is I run the HRRR model. I think some of you are probably experienced with that. And what I look for there is, turn that off. Sorry about that. I use the HRRR and I look for either convection storms moving into my area, or if the storms developed in my area. And what I do is I click sounding to get a feel of the environment, and I click a balloon sounding, basically a pseudo balloon sounding. And so it gives, go ahead. Yes. Room number?
229.
229. Yes. Yes. Yeah. All right. My chase part. He's lost. Anyhow, I use HRRR and I click that sounding, and I get this, and what that is, on the left is the skew T, It's a vertical snapshot of the atmosphere that that storm is feeding on, okay? And that tells me, it tells me the amount of cape, the instability that is available. I like to know where that cape is, where that instability, and especially recently, I look at the 3 kilometer cape very strongly. It shows a tendency for tornadoes to happen when there's higher values of the 3 kilometer cape. It also tells me on the left side, on that vertical snapshot, it'll tell me kind of what the cloud bases are going to be. The lower the cloud bases, the better supercell can organize to produce a tornado or severe weather for that matter. Then on the right hand side is the hodograph. I am learning, still learning, how to read and interpret hodographs. But they tell you lots of things. They will tell you basically what type of a supercell, what type of a storm you're going to get. Is it a low precipitation supercell, a classic, a high precipitation supercell? Then it will also tell you, sometimes it will tell you maybe the tendency of the size of the storm that you might expect later. It will show you the general, an idea of where the storms will move, the direction that the storms move, which is important, and especially the speed that they move, okay? Fast storm movement, you need to stay further away and be able to get out of the way when storms are moving fast, because they are more threatening whether you're driving out in the country, not chasing or spotting. So that tells you a lot, and I look at that. I'll throw this slide up here. If you want to learn more about hodographs, just Google search for Cameron Nixon hodograph. There is a bunch of webinars that he has, PowerPoints that are very, very informative. And I'm still learning, and later on in my talk here, we'll talk more about Cameron and some new stuff that I'm learning. And you guys can learn also, hopefully.
Do those photographs change throughout? They're from the balloon soundings when they do them 2 or 3 times a day?
Well, yeah.
When they get those? So they don't change hourly?
They don't, well, you get models that change hourly.
But the photographs don't.
But the true hodograph from the National Weather Service is you know, kind of affixed for a while. So after that kind of gives me, and it should give you all, a kind of a fair idea of what is going on, what to expect before you go out to spot or chase. After that, I pretty much, it's a radar watch. We all kind of know, you know, watch radar, watch the surface. I look at the surface conditions quite a bit. You know, where's a dry line, warm front, triple point, where's the surface low at? All those things are important in being prepared, knowing what to expect before you go out there. And then basically, I wait for the Storm Prediction Center meso discussion. Usually in a tornado situation, not always, but usually they'll issue a discussion for an area about an hour before they issue a watch. And so I kind of use the meso discussion as getting out the door time, okay? And the text of the meso discussion is pretty short, but it's really concise, and it'll tell you what, when, where, and how in a very, usually they're not very long, but that's kind of the last thing that I look at before I go out the door. If you look at all that, what I've just discovered or discussed to you, you can be more prepared and know what to expect before you get to the storm. Another pointer, I think we all should all have access to reliable radar on your smartphones. Everybody has that, right? Yeah. There's several free apps out there. I use GR Level 3. My eyes are not good enough to look at radar image from a smartphone. So I use my laptop with a bigger screen. I like that because I can blow the storm up that I'm interested in, so I can see finer detail on what's going on with that storm, okay? And you use your radar app to keep you out of harm's way. And now I'm gonna talk to you guys that are not chasers or spotters. If you're traveling, okay, I say that you shouldn't drive into a thunderstorm if there's a tornado issue, okay? Do not drive in, and certainly don't drive into a storm if it's tornado warning, okay? So I really tell people that that's what they need to do, and to use your radar app to keep out of harm's way if you're traveling, okay? Another pointer, a safe positioning with a quality escape route. I've kind of blocked out the best visual, if you will, for the storm. That probably could be lowered a little bit in this image maybe, but you get the kind of the idea of south and east of the storm is the best visual for visualizing the storm, okay? So I'm gonna pretend here just a little bit for you guys that are traveling, all right? Let's just say that this line right here is I-70. See that arrow?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're westbound on I-70 and you're at this position here. This storm's moving, it's got a storm track going that way, which may or may, might be close to the storm movement. Okay, if you're sitting right here, can you see what you need to be seeing? Probably not. Probably not. You're gonna be looking through the rain in this area right here. And if you continue going, this storm is gonna lift towards you. You're gonna be blinded until you get to this part of the storm there, and all of a sudden the rain ends and you're in the bear's cage or with the bear very close, okay? So that's why I say use your radar app if you're traveling to stay out of the way. And I'll go with some directions here in just a moment. But again, the best spotting area, of course, is to the south and east. And that applies to if you're going north or south on I-35, let's say. If that storm's lifting, if you're far enough south, stop. Let the storm go by. Same way with 70. Use your radar app to stop or get out of the way. Usually it's best probably to stop if you can soon enough, but that's what you use your radar app for. I try to stay about a mile away from tornadoes that I'm around. Doesn't always work,
No.
but I want to be close enough so that I can tell where the tornado is when I'm talking live on KSAL, or I'm running a feed to the National Weather Service, okay? I wanna know where that tornado is and where it's going. So I try to keep a mile buffer, okay? But sometimes that doesn't work. But I encourage all of you that probably, ideally, if you wanna really stay safe, that you probably ought to have a 2-mile buffer. And again, like Tanner says, you get a lot better view of the storm than you are quarter mile away from it, okay? So, safe positioning with quality escape routes. Always have, if you can, try to have 2 quality escape routes. And what I mean by quality, I mean paved roads, okay? I've grown up on muddy roads, but I've chased and I've had a dirt road suddenly end in a field. And if that's your escape route, you're gonna be in trouble, okay? So I like to stay on blacktop roads if you possibly can. And again, going east, now, National Weather Service people, plug your ears when I say this, but for the most part, most supercells and tornadoes do not go at highway speed, okay? So you should be able to outrun it on like I-70 or something like that at a posted 75 mile an hour, okay? Or a good 2-lane, all right? So east or south is the best option for escaping, to getting out of the way of a storm. And also, I would say where that arrow is pointing down, the arrowhead there, if you're in that position, west would also be a good escape route, okay? Another pointer, and it kind of really is the same as what I was just talking about, but I put it separate because there's a lot of stuff to talk about. Avoid areas that could cause debris entrapment, okay? And we'll start out with empty grain bins. I've seen a lot of video of tumbling empty grain storage bins. In fact, one video, you can see the bin rolling, it hits a chaser car, immobilizes it, the tornado overtakes it, and that person was hurt because he got immobilized by getting hit. So I call an empty grain bin a mobile home standing on its end, okay? So when you're spotting or chasing, just keep that in the back of your mind. If you're farm field, or if you're around a farm that's got a lot of grain storage, you might beware of that, okay? Power lines are the first thing to go down in wind, usually, okay? So if there's a power line across the road that maybe isn't on the ground but hanging, and it's nighttime, or you're in heavy rain and you run into it, that's not good. And if it's energized, it's worse, okay? And power poles, also, I've seen video after video after video of chasers, tornado passing by right in front of them, quarter mile, 200 yards away. And if there's power poles and stuff, you'll see the power lines go, the power poles will get snapped right where the tornado is. But what happens sometimes is there's a domino effect. And even though you're back, they'll snap coming back toward you. So remember that. And I've had a lot of experience. When I chase, I carry a chainsaw and a log chain. And I've sawed off butts of snapped off power poles so first responders could get through. Urban areas, that's another one of my pet peeves a little bit. On video that I watch are chasers that are 3 blocks away from a tornado in town. And there's debris flying everywhere, and I tell you that probably the next chaser that gets killed may be from that. Debris, either a piece of roof falling on your car or a wooden missile spearing somebody. It's gonna happen. So you guys are chasing, I want you to stay away, stay out of towns if you can. Just please stay out of towns, because there is a lot of debris that gets centrifuged out of a town. And I see people way too close there. Tall trees. I have a lot of experience with tall trees. I've seen 2, 3 tornadoes that have gone across cottonwood groves. I've seen whole cottonwood trees lofted over and fall. And if an 18-ton cottonwood tree falls on your car, you're gonna have a bad day. So keep in mind, and also the trees will block your escape route if there's winds going on around a storm. And again, I've sawed many of trees to let first responders through. Okay, another pointer. Tornadoes are larger than they look. Okay? When I see a tornado, I'm generally eyes on it. okay? I'm not looking at radar anymore. My eyes are on that tornado, okay? But there is a lot of invisible damaging winds that go on around tornadoes that I can't see. There's inflow channel, there's RFD, and Chris here is gonna talk about DRCs and inflow jets. Here's the beginning of the Bennington tornado. Friend Chris here diagrammed the airflows in around this developing tornado that most of us have heard and seen about, all right? So look at that. There is a lot of stuff going on that is wider than that visible tornado, okay? So I'm gonna show you what that looks like in real time. If I can get this. This is my son's video shooting straight north, about a half a mile away, and watch the different things that go on outside of the visible tornado. And yeah, he gets excited. Oh, sorry. See, look at the sheets of rain blowing right in front of me. Now look at your vortices. Again, watch the sheets of rain, just atomized rain going by in front. And then look at all that action outside of the visible funnel. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind when you're chasing. Okay? Look at that. So I'd whoop and holler also. So again, if you lose sight of a tornado by being rain wrapped, getting dust covered, maybe you're driving and there's trees blocking your view, hills in the way, just be prepared to back off a little bit. When you lose sight of that tornado, you don't know what it's doing, okay? Another important thing, beware of deviant motion, okay? Normally, in the tornado, I would say normally, but the tornadoes that I have witnessed before they happen, usually those storms are like moving southwest to northeast. But right before they tornado, several of them have turned right and come straight east at you. So if you're set up on that southeast side, you know, it could turn towards you. Just beware of that, and again, keep that buffer to where you can stay out of a quick motion like that. Lots of tornado paths that I have seen, at the end of their track, they'll turn a little bit to the left, okay? Not always, but sometimes. And so you have to be aware of, that's kind of normal motion, normal work with tornadoes. Then there's rope outs. I snapped this picture southwest of Russell, just before full dark. The horizontal part of that tornado is a mile long before it stabs to the ground. Okay? Friend Chris here, in his tornado genesis study, kind of tells us that as the supercell carrying a tornado moves along, the supercell matures, it gets taller and taller. So the rain that it lofts gets colder and colder, and when those cold downdrafts hit the ground, kind of does this with the tornado, and that's how you get this pushing motion. And it could be different directions. It just kind of depends on how that downdraft pushes the tornado, if it's roping out like that. Tornado is not very...
Pushing it this way?
Yes.
Sorry, yeah.
The tornado's not very big there, but the ones I've seen, they are very intense yet, okay? And I've seen a couple of rope outs that probably moved a half a mile in like 15 seconds. Very fast. So you have to be aware of that. Yep.
Do those typically only go out the back and the sides? Do they ever go out the front of the tornado?
Okay, say that again?
Do they typically go out the back and the sides? Do you ever see them go out the front, or they just don't go out the front?
Well, it kind of depends. I think friend Chris here could probably answer that better than I can. But it appears that how that cold downdraft hits the ground is gonna tell where it pushes. Tornado may be what they call occluded also, and it may get wrapped away from its parent mesocyclone. And that also can detach and get pushed by those downdrafts easier, okay? Thanks. So we've talked about kind of stuff that usually happens, but there are some environments that produce deviant motion. Tornadoes that move that you don't, in directions that you're not expecting. Bennington was a poster child of deviant motion, okay? Storm slowly moved east, sat for how long, ages, seemed like to me, and then it moved back and retrograded southwest. I got in trouble at Bennington. Once that tornado went back across Highway 18, I was northeast of it. I came down the interstate, turned west on 18, because I wanted to get through the storm and see if the tornado was gonna hit Culver, because it was heading that direction, okay? Well, I come to that one intersection, I think goes to Minneapolis, and I see a house that's been hurt, damaged, pretty good. Windows gone, part of the roof gone. So I pulled in there and I checked with those people to make sure they were all right. They were, so I backed out and continued westbound, and suddenly I got caught in an inflow jet. The wind was out of the north, it switched to the northwest, and it's physically pushing my truck sideways on Highway 18. Well, I quickly turned sideways, and looking at Cameron Nixon's Deviant Tornado PowerPoint there, he has an animation of the Bennington tornado with velocity. And I studied that, and all of a sudden I see, well, here a tornado spun up and it's coming straight north. And it almost got me, okay? 3 days later, I lost my friends down at El Reno. Tim Samaras, Paul, his son, Carl Young. I didn't know Carl that well. I really didn't talk to him much, what I saw. But Tim and Paul, and they lost their lives to a deviant motion tornado. Now, the point of this slide is, from what Cameron Nixon is saying in his webinar, is that looking at the hodograph, deviancy can be predictable. The tendency of deviancy can be predictable. And there's a way. And so I advise you to try to find this on Cameron's webinars and websites and study it. I am studying that, and I'm trying to understand that, because deviant moving tornadoes are the ones that have almost got me and got my friends. Yeah, Jeff?
So the Anthony tornado, it had a supercell move into it came in at an angle like this to it, and the tornado went from moving like this, moving from the normal direction, and it turned around to the north,
To the north.
to the northwest.
That's deviance.
Yeah.
And to some extent, that can be predictable if you look at the environment of the hodograph. The best I can tell you is a slow storm motion speed with a big humped hodograph. And from what Cameron says, that tornadoes can spin up and then it'll curl onto that right side of the hodograph, the hump in the hodograph. But I advise you to study that, if you're seriously chasing, study that, because it may, if you can beware of that before you go out there, then you can keep your distance a little bit more on that, okay? Another pointer, earlier I said, well, everybody needs a radar to keep yourself safe. Well, avoid radar fixation. If you're driving down the road and you're looking at your smartphone, that's unsafe, period. Okay? I do it, I think a lot of us do it to chase, but it's unsafe. I admit that. But try not to do that. And I'll give you the answer to how to fix that in the next slide or two. Again, when you see an update on your radar, what's happening out the windows probably happened 4 minutes ago. Okay, so you gotta remember that. And if you're sitting there staring at your radar like I do sometimes, your eyes are not on that tornado, seeing what it's doing, okay? Kind of last but not least, I guess, minimize task saturation. If you're sending spotters out, if you're out chasing, always have a partner. Divide the workload, okay? I know for me, it's tough because in late April and early May, we're processing, hauling cattle, okay? And so it's hard to get away, except, I get a mesoscale discussion, tornado watch, that could be some serious tornadoes. I'm gonna tell the guys, sorry, I'm out of here. But, and then it's, nobody can come to me in 15 minutes before I take off. So, it's my biggest challenge. So I'm driving, I'm looking at the radar, I'm talking on the cell phone, maybe to live radio audience on KSAL, or I'm giving live feeds to the National Weather Service in Wichita, okay? So always try to have a partner when you're chasing or spotting. Okay, last but least, stop and help storm victims. And that is everybody. If you're traveling and you're not chasing, or if you're chasing, you're probably gonna be the first on scene for people that may be hurt. And I'm talking to you as a retired first responder now, okay? If you see like a car blown off the highway, stop and check. Call 911 and report it. Even if you think 5 other people have called 911,
Probably not.
call it, because you're going to probably add more depth to the description of what's going on. Is there entrapment? Somebody's trapped in a car. Are they bleeding badly? If you come on the farmstead, and there's people trapped in the basement or somebody hurt, say that. Report that to the dispatch. That determines lots of times what we respond with to help things be better. Okay? And then, if you come across a victim, I know people are afraid of liability and stuff like that, but you give the information out, do not leave that person, that victim, until first responders
Get there.
arrive, okay? Because when I'm on the rural fire district, basically whatever I'm doing, if the page goes off, time stops, okay? Time stops for me until that issue is done, okay? And it should be with you, with storm victims, okay? That's it. Questions, comments? I know I've not covered everything as far as storm safety here, but hopefully it gave you some words of thought.
So that graph that you had
The photograph.
The photograph.
Mhm.
That was on. That's the right side, right? What did you say was on the left side? What did you call that? That's
QT.
that's just a.
Yeah, the skew T.
Okay.
Yeah, the skew T. That's your, again, pseudo balloon sounding that you're launching in that environment. And it kind of gives you an idea of the environment that storm is feeding on. And the more knowledge, to sum up, I guess, the more knowledge that you have before you go out spotting or chasing or driving, the safer we all will be. All right? Any other questions, Michelle? I don't know all of it, I know that.
No, I personally appreciate your plug for the helping the storm victims, because I think what
Mhm.
Henry talks about is when we have an incident, we're looking at anywhere from 100 to 300 calls to dispatch, ranging from limbs in a road to power lines on fire, and we then have to rank what those priorities are. So if someone calls in and they give a brief description on something, and then the call cuts out for whatever reason, but then you can provide more information, that actually gets moved up in the response list, so we can get first responders there a lot quicker with our limited resources that we have. So we do appreciate your additional help on that.
Okay, anything else? Anything that you have experiences to add or anything like that?
I think your hazard list would be good to include other chasers. I think people that are passing
Right,
up a hill.
distracted.
Yeah,
Mhm.
stuff like that, just point
And
out other chasers.
and I will say that there are a lot of chasers, and one of them, going by myself, I lose situational awareness from time to time. I'll admit that, and I fight that, okay? But the solving of that problem is having somebody else looking at the radar while you keep your eyes on the road in the tornado or destruction. Okay,